First band's gonna come out as Olaf. I think they're targeting Link.
Yeah, that's definitely a strong band. I remember, if you guys haven't seen the Link video a while back where he was Lee Sin juking all around the jungle. Um, that was definitely a lot of fun. I think he was back on Orb at that point in time, so he was Orb Link. But Alistar, Anivia, just solid all-around bands. I honestly, I feel bad because I couldn't say whether or not these are, targeted champions. I know Hoodstop, he did play some Hecarim, though. And so, like, Hecarim and Malphite, those kind of champions.
Like as a joke, like 4Not asked me, who do we ban? Like, what do we ban against CLG.Black? And I'm like, just ban out Link. Even though I had no basis, and I told them I have no idea if that's a good idea. It looks like they're just targeting their bans. This is interesting because this means someone like Nautilus is open right now. So I
Yeah.
say one of the scariest junglers in the game might just be picked up first.
Well, it's also one of those junglers that Brad plays, so he tends to like those really strong ganking junglers. We'll see if they go ahead and pick that up. I think it's interesting. People have stopped playing Nautilus for a while now. They've kind of shied away from him. And, Alistar's come in a lot more to play. He's banned all the time. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on why we haven't seen quite as much Nautilus? Is it just that people are shying away from that early ganking aggression and more into late game?
It's all about actually the lane you can gank, and it seems to have transferred to like, all right, we gank top a little bit early on, but bottom is getting more and more popular as a place to gank. Someone like Nocturne, who has that like very easy to lens ultimate, and compared to someone like Nautilus, where you have the skill shot, you do have depth charge, but the low base movement speed can really come into play. Like, you need to have a much more secured gank. So someone like Maokai has actually been picking up heat in Europe. Like, Maokai is getting banned or picked almost every game, which threw me off because Nautilus not even close to being a perma-banned or perma-picked there. So it's just like this weird transfer of where people actually want to go. And someone like Maokai, as actually Hoodstomp is already selected, is going to be a whole lot better in the bot lane compared to someone like Nautilus. So, I don't know. It's a change of focus.
I think it's interesting. We almost never saw Nautilus in Europe. I mean, he was played a lot in Europe, but he was a lot more relevant in the NA scene. Every single game in NA, you would see a Nautilus for a period of time. So, I don't know, we'll see how that progresses. Nocturne, definitely strong, and Nocturne does have the jungling speed over Maokai, but, like you said, those are two of the, strongest junglers right now. They go ahead and pick Soraka. Now, I'm curious, Locust, he has kind of had an issue with what kind of versatility he can play. Like, right now, I would say Nunu is, one of those top supports, and in this kind of a situation, it would be a strong support. But Locust, I feel like he's only played Taric whenever I watch him. He plays Taric, Soraka, Janna, those kind of, standard old line champions.
He has actually been playing Blitzcrank as recently as yesterday, when I actually spectated there some games as they played against Orbit. So he's trying to expand. I believe one of the problems he had with Dignitas was he had a limited champion pool. We never saw him on Leona. We never saw him on Blitzcrank, actually. There was never that really aggressive support you see a lot nowadays. So they haven't actually chosen a support yet. So support in mid still open, and Rumble being chosen by 4Not and Zyra coming out from CLG.Black.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that we're seeing Rumble as like the second or third pick. But, I mean, it's definitely a really strong champion. If they were concerned that CLG.Black would pick him up. The Zyra is definitely exciting, though, because everyone I talk to says that Zyra is just ridiculously strong and has a lot of potential in competitive play. So, what are your kind of thoughts on that? The ultimate, at the very least, seems ridiculous.
I've seen her played a bit, in Europe. I've seen her played a bit in the United States. It's weird because she's not a traditional AP champion. You can't just, like, anti-bomb someone. You cannot Tibbers bomb. There is no Rise Room Prison to start a fight. Like, you have your root, but you're more of a poke-oriented champion because you want to lay down your seeds. You want to get as many plants as possible for a team fight, and then like you use just massive poke with your skills and just the massive little kind of Heimer prison with your plant. So she's very odd. I've seen different playstyles from her. I think it's kind of poke-oriented, and then eventually you're just like ultimate in. Let's try and actually start a fight when they're low enough. But I don't know. I have not seen her often enough. I have not seen her consistently enough, and I want to see what comes out from Black because I think she's good. I think Link can do it. Link is their mid laner, right?
I think Link is top lane. Actually, I have no idea. I really couldn't tell.
Psycho
I know
top.
Bloodwater is support. Is Psycho Sid top?
I believe Psycho Sid is top lane.
Okay. And Hoodstomp's jungle. So I guess Link is Link must be. No, wait. Is Bloodwater must be AD and Zuna's support.
Bloodwater support.
Bloodwater
Zeus
support.
is jungler.
Oh, okay.
It's funny because they actually play, like, I know Zuna, when he played on MPW, he was their support for a
Right.
while.
That's what I thought he was. I thought he was support.
But they changed the rules at some point. Like, A lot of CLG.Black's composition has actually changed from what they used to play, so it's even hard to look at history and be like, what did they do before?
Or wait, is Hood Stomp AD?
Hood Stomps 80. That sounds
Okay,
right.
yeah, I think that's right because Hood Stomp and Aphromoo are the two big black League of Legends pros, and they both play AD.
Minorities in League of Legends pro scene is not that common, but so it's like to remember who's who. Um,
It's just a random thing,
it's kind
but
of unfortunate, but
regardless, 4Not. I mean, 4Not has a really nice AOE team with the Karthus and the Rumble. If they can, force CLG.Black into that kind of kill zone, and I don't know. Zera should be able to play far enough back. Ezreal is very survivable, so it'll be interesting to see whether they can force fights in that upfront area. I guess Nocturne, for the most part, he can force the initiation, and then they can just kind of pile it on.
there's actually a cool layering of just when the team is good. So for now, they have a really good early game. Tarek Tristana, Tristana's going to shine in that early game, and Rumble, of course, Flame Spitter is amazing right now because they made it too good by making it hit just about anything. You can spin around in a circle, and it's pretty much a fiddlesticks AOE.
Hmm.
At the same time, when they come to the mid game, Tristana kind of falls off, but then Karthus gets a lot stronger, and so Rumble, is Rumble still. And then late game, the only person who's not going to be amazing is going to be Rumble. Everyone else, Nocturne late game, Tristana late game, Karthus late game, those are characters you want on your team at the 40-minute mark.
Right.
So I like their composition. Black, they've got something kind of different going on. They have that early game potential coming out from Maokai. Ezreal considered more of an early game character. So, like, they have a lot more early game pressure, but they still have a really later on. They still have, a solid 80 carry. And Zyra, I think she's really good late game. She just has not seen enough play, though.
Hmm. Well, the thing I love most about their team is they can put on a lot of pressure in that mid lane, and Karthus can be very vulnerable to those kind of aggressive ganks. Maokai has that potential. Zera can follow it up. The easy route into the double route, they have enough disables to just quickly take out Karthus. That'll definitely be nice. The large AOE, I mean, that could also kind of work as a similar to Gragas later on in the game for zoning Karthus. Just to get the kill and keep Karthus away from the team. I don't know. We'll have to see. But they do have a fairly tanky lineup with the Aurelia, Maokai, and then Soraka. So their front line should be okay, even with the fact that they're going to be in all this nasty AoE damage from 4Not.
Now, I'm actually not surprised to say this, but, a team with Zyra and Maokai sure has a lot of roots.
But
Sorry. I apologize from the
I
bottom.
am I am
No,
looking at
no, sorry.
Zyra's runes. You're not sorry.
Not at
Don't
all.
apologize. You're not sorry. I'm looking at Zyra's runes though, and has some mana regen for spam ability, just kind of some standard mid lane stuff, some magic pen ability power, and then going extremely offensive. So just kind of a standard mana hungry AP build. So I'm kind of curious how he'll build her as the game progresses, but he could definitely put on some pressure in the mid lane.
And check out his summoner spells. He actually has ghosts. So when I say that it's a very Heimerdinger-like champion, it even goes down to the summoner spells. You don't see normally an ignite on Heimer because you don't rely on that. You need to get away and just stay alive so your turrets do damage. Zyra's kind of the same deal. So we're going to see her played almost in a Heimerdinger-like way where it's more about kiting into plants, which really do quite a bit of damage early on in the game and later on in the game from what I've seen. So I want to see how that works out. At the same time, there is not like a hard stop you move aside from a dazzle from Tarek. Everything else is going to be a slow. Everything else you can still flash from.
Hmm.
So Zyra's going to have a good potential not to really get caught out by anything except I guess the Tarek stun or the Nocturne Fear. And Tarek stun is not that fast. You can still react to it relatively well.
Yeah, it will be tough for Nocturne, I would think, though. I think Nocturne could probably engage on her along with the shield. He can, kind of get out of there. But we'll have to see. One thing I think is kind of interesting, which will be funny to see if that happens later, is Zyra. You can actually use your plants to solo Baron, and you can solo it over the wall. The plants draw the aggro, and they just die very slowly, and you can just constantly spam them up. So that's kind of a funny thing. I was wondering if you could do the Heimerdinger turret trick, where you drop the turrets behind the enemy blue, and then it just auto targets and steals the blue for you. But I don't think they draw aggro or kill it fast enough for that to be the case.
That sounds really annoying if that can actually happen.
Yeah.
That is the only way I can put that. Like, wow, that is going to be so obnoxious for the tournament scene for a short while.
Yeah, for the Baron over the wall or the blue.
Both of those things,
Yeah.
actually. If either of those things are possible, I know the Baron of the Wall is possible. So Fortnite's going to have to be super on point with their wards. If they ever see Zyra missing for like 30 seconds after the 20-minute mark, they just have to like check Baron as quickly as possible. They actually only have a Karthus for ranged scouting, while Gosu, while CLG.Black does have Maokai, who has that really good bush vision with his saplings. So it's going to be actually really hard for 4Not to go ahead and check like something like a Baron if they think there might be a trap set up.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, both teams they have pretty solid lane matchups. They kind of have a understanding what they're doing. Rumble versus Aurelia top, probably the most aggressive lane in this matchup, and Aurelia with the Maokai has that potential to do very well against Rumble. Rumble has a little bit of a damage advantage, but the quick burst along with the disables, that's kind of how you always want to go against Rumble. Is those hard initiating bruisers, since Rumble is fairly squishy early on in the game, you just dive on him with the jungle gank coming in, and you can take him down.
If a fight lasts, like, let's say 9 seconds against Rumble, you probably lost it because you
Right.
got 2 flame spitters off. So
Right.
the quick damage will be important. Aurelia versus Rumble is weird because if Rumble doesn't do well enough, he will eventually just kind of die to Aurelia. So they need to get an early advantage in that lane. And let's see this aggression from both teams. 4Not going straight to their top lane. CLG.Black going straight, to a defensive position, protecting their blue. They have the presence all laid out, ready to be gifted. So I want to see what 4Not tries to pull off because they have something very odd positioned here.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. It seems like they might be coming in for a red steal, but I'm not really sure what the point is of their positioning. Like it's like they're trying to cut off the shadows, but I don't know, who they would be spotting in any of these situations that it would be a good point for them to sit there. We'll see what'll happen. Maokai going to be starting off on the regular blue side, so he should be fine.
So what they did right there is they thought somebody might be in that bush, and I just want to quote Hoodstomp really quickly. Apparently, Pulsefire Ezreal has a horrible auto attack, so that's why nobody uses it in tournaments.
Did he say that?
Yeah, in chat.
I think that's funny. Some of the skins, you kind of have a feel for them, and the animations are slightly different. Like I really like the Red Baron Corki skin. For everyone, everything that everyone used to say about how it's not a great skin, it's a very fluid feeling skin. It's just very smooth. The animations are really nice compared with some of the other Corki skins.
And at the exact same time, something like Gangster Twitch, that's a good example. The Tommy gun, it just sounds different. It feels different. We do have a race steal coming out from 4Not, though, so nice little advantage for them early on. And then no wolves being done by either bot lane, no golems being done. So it's going to be a fairly even game just with this start, except for a small advantage for one bad Brad. And they do go for red.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not they pressure top lane very quickly here. Probably not to be expected because Rumble isn't really the strongest in the early levels. He will be kind of weak early on, but I mean, you can always take him by surprise if that's the case. If Aurelia is playing a little bit too aggressively, they have to watch out for that quick level 2 gank. And I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't watch out for their red, because a lot of times as the top lane, you'll just position yourself at the brush right outside of the red buff, and you can see them pass by.
And Zuna's in for a little surprise. What's he going to find? One Wraith at his Wraith camp. He knows his red buff is probably gone, so they know what's up now, so they can plan accordingly, possibly go for a gank. Up in the top lane, Martel actually taken down quite a bit of HP already. Just the early advantage Psycho Sid has, because Rumble doesn't have Flame Spitter yet, is going to be huge if you can actually use it. That's the tricky part.
Yeah, the first couple of levels are definitely huge for Aurelia, and part of the issue with going with that level early invade is that Nocturne, he's not going to be able to put much pressure on top lane for a while now because of his transitioning. He's going down to their red, he's going to transition up to blue. He's actually going to need to recall. So as a result, Aurelia has a little bit of free time where she can kind of put some pressure on there. We'll see how that lane progresses. I mean, that is the thing with Rumble. You expect around level 4, that's when you're really coming into your own in the lane, and then particularly once you hit 6. But, wow, the great harass from Zera, actually zoning off Takashi X a little bit. He will be fine. The little sapling or whatever you call it goes down pretty quickly. But there's still that threat of that long-range plant harass.
And actually, interestingly enough, it does provide mana for his passive, so he can use layaways to kill them. He just needs to go ahead and not actually... Actually, he's being ganked right now. Zuno showing up, does get the root off.
Yeah, and actually Link coming up. He gets the snare, the flash from Takashi X. He's able to get out of there. The better part is how squishy they are. You don't actually have to use your Q to kill him, and just an auto attack would get the passive. But yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing. I am curious though. Takashi X, he should be fine now, but he's at a slight disadvantage. Karthus really at a disadvantage in every single lane he plays in, but he has the range where he can just farm against most people. And I don't know. Zera, I don't feel like she has that long range. She's got pretty long range poke, but I don't know if it's long enough to deal with Karthus.
It's good, but it's not lay-waste good.
Yeah, so...
And we do have one bad Brad in the mid lane, actually, setting something up.
Yeah, and Link a little bit out of position. The actually wall from Karthus, he's coming in. One bad Brad going to try and get in. Actually just backs off while Takashi
So
X
much
is
damage.
chasing him down. One more lay waste, the flash after Link, and that one more attack. They aren't able to pick it up. I feel like one bad Brad could have just flashed in for that, just one auto attack for that kill, but didn't want to force it. He was concerned about the Maokai presence.
Which he had good reason to. Maokai actually showing up at the mid lane, spotted by one bad Brad. I guess both teams are going to kind of walk into each other, but Takashi X is forced out of lane, out of health potions, while Link does have one to spare. Going to get a little bit more farm, a slight gold advantage right now in favor of CLG.Black, and that's just going to be because of that early aggression.
Yeah, and I mean, it's even though Karthus, even though they are able to almost able to pick up the kill, it is in Link's advantage, which is kind of interesting. Bot lane, the Tristana Taric combination, it can be extremely aggressive, but Ezreal and Soraka, they really don't care. It's just a nice passive lane that you can farm with for the most part. I'm curious whether or not, as the lane progresses, we might see Tristana try and push Ezreal into the tower. So that's kind of, I don't know, something you tend to do against Ezreal. But Tristana's pushing capability, I feel like, is overhyped a little bit with her E. It is solid, but it's not like Graves or Corki good, obviously.
The problem it has is actually it's more of a hindrance sometimes. Like looking at Pearl, what is he skilled up? Just 2 points in Rocket Jump, 1 point in Rapid Fire. He doesn't have his 4th point spent because he doesn't actually want to start pushing yet. So he's holding on to a point in Explosive Fire just because he knows the second he puts it in, he's made a decision, he will push out. One bad Breton stomping on a little plant. Actually, it doesn't die. I've had
Yeah, I was surprised that didn't happen.
whether you can kill plants or not, because sometimes they don't seem to die. There's a bit of a delay period before they will get crushed. Unfortunately, it's not really a bit. I'd say it's about 5 seconds. People seem to be saying.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how much damage Zero's plants are going to do for Dragon, and if that turns her into a champion for good Dragon control. Psycho Sid coming onto Martel here. The turnaround, one bad Brad coming down as well. They have plenty of damage. They are going to back off, though. Don't want to tank that. But Maokai in the mid lane. The twisted advance onto Takashi X. He doesn't have the flash now. He's going down pretty quickly. The first blood going onto Link. He's able to pick that up, so really nice control. And that's the concern with the Karthus lane. They have the double snares that they can follow up for those kills.
He will die. You expect him to die almost, and unfortunately, the big thing is just getting the farm. So he's at 41 CS versus 43 CS. Actually, aggression in the top lane. Psycho Sid doing a lot of damage to Martel, but one bad Brad has shown up as well as Malk.
Yeah, and actually Martel will go down in the lane, but Psycho Sid should follow with that Karthus ultimate, and now one bad Brad trying to chase down Zuna. He actually was almost able to get out of there, but the Fear is going to be up again in a second, so he's still pursuing. 1 second left on the Fear. He will be pursuing it. No, just getting right out of there. Doesn't want to tank, but actually Zuna was able to stall for his teammate. Link coming in here, picks up the kill with the ultimate. The bait onto one bad Brad. He does go down, and now blue buff onto Zera.
Actually, in the bot lane, we do have Hoodstomp taking a lot of damage from Pearl. They jumped onto him, but Pearl taking a lot of damage in response. This is just an auto attack war that they seem to be losing.
Yeah, and with the Soraka, they should have the regen to win this. Hoodstomp just able to get as much damage as he can on the way back, and then because Parole and Locust are pretty low for the meantime, as the lane progresses, they'll Ezreal and Soraka will have a nice little advantage there.
And unfortunately, just with the way Ezreal levels up, he's going to have more points into Essence Flux than Tristana will have into a Rapid Fire, so her attack speed bonus is going to be almost negligible. And actually, I think the debuff will override it in the end just because of how debuffs tend to work in this game. So not really a good start for any of these lanes. Pretty far behind in terms of gold, 2,000 at the 8-minute mark. So that's quite an advantage early on. And it seems to be quite a bit of CS. Martel only at 30 CS in the top lane.
Yeah, but it should be interesting to see how Tristana will do later, because you're right. Most Ezreals are transitioning into that Essence Flux build now. It's better for lane harass. It's better for fights. You get that attack speed debuff. But late game Tristana is clearly one of the strongest ADs. We haven't seen her for a while. She kind of, I don't know, hasn't really made her way into competitive play for some time. She played intermittently. But she always pairs perfectly with large AoE damage teams. Because of her high single target focus, you need someone to just have that clearing, since she doesn't have really much ability damage in the late game team fights.
It's only been played, I think Tristana's only been played by Fnatic Columbia, and not that often. Like, it will be, every now and then you'll see her come out. So it's only one person that really picks Tristana with relative consistency. So I mean, they have to reach that point in the game where Tristana is no longer reliant on her spells and her auto attack will be awesome, but that's going to take a while, and they're not doing that well right now. She's actually behind on CS, and she's kind of like the crutch right now. Everything else is kind of going not that great for 4Not.
Oh, I think the big concern for 4Not is going to be how that top lane is going to go, because they need Rumble to succeed. He's doing pretty well right now. He has the damage to abuse Aurelia a little bit, but Aurelia is a regen. Psycho Sid's going to be fine. And then once he finishes that Wit's End in particular, Wit's End into a Merc Treads, he's just going to be extremely aggressive in that lane, have plenty of damage. In the meantime, Maokai coming up, Psycho Sid jumping onto Martel. Once again, the ultimate goes off, but he drops immediately. And One Bad Brad actually coming in as well. Psycho Sid, one more attack will go down, but actually the Soraka. And so Maokai chasing him down, trying to get that sapper lane. Can't quite kill Martel. He will back off, but the twisted advance onto Brad. Psycho Sid following it up, picks up the kill.
Fortunately, Karthus up in about 10 seconds. Had they waited, they could have gotten Psycho Sid, possibly Zune as a follow-up. Just unfortunate timing. Takashi X died in the mid lane as it all went down.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take a look back real quick. And it's just actually a quick burst. The snare into the ultimate, just instantly killing him. I'm not sure actually what got him there. So he's very low. I guess Link just got one more attack at the end. The flash in for the snare. So he was actually able to pick that up.
And I mean, 4Not, just with the way this game is going right now, they're behind 3,000 gold. CLG.Black showing that despite the fact that we never see them, they're actually a good team that does practice. And I want to see them make a big play right now, because if they just kind of wait for the ganks to happen, if they wait for the lane to happen, they need either Takashi X to land an amazing ult, which doesn't seem that hard, but they need to get them low enough first.
Oh, the burst from Parole and Locust onto Bloodwater. He's able to get out of there with the heal. So Hoodstomp turning it around, actually getting some nice damage himself. He will want to back off, but even so, Locust is extremely low. So they're able to, just stabilize that lane, and that's kind of a big concern for them, that they just don't have enough damage currently to deal with the Soraka heal. So Ezreal can just, stabilize those fights and very easily turn it around on them.
What you see happen is they get a lot of damage off, and it's like, awesome, cool, maybe they'll chase and kill him, but then Tristana has long cooldowns on her spells, they can't really follow it up, and eventually Ezreal's spam ability just kind of takes him out.
Yeah, and Maokai actually set up in the bottom lane. They might go for this, but I just don't think they have enough damage to dive this. So he'll just sit back, expecting that maybe Nocturne will be on his way. He is. They see the ward. Zuna actually pinging it off, but then not clearing it. So he'll go back and clear that now. I'm kind of curious, though, the top lane, Psycho Sid is just constantly abusing Martel. Now, he's actually going to dive for it. One more attack. He does have to back off, but, how will Rumble be able to control this lane from this point, considering the advantages that Aurelia has with the magic resist and with the burst damage?
I mean, Aurelia right now has 109 magic resist with Wit's End up, so Rumble, he needs help. He cannot kill her on her own right now. The damage Flame Spitter does is high, but he hasn't built any AP items because he had to go defensive. Looking at his item, 2 Doran Shields and Ninja Tab just to not die to Aurelia. But unfortunately, it's just too defensive. He needs something else to survive this lane, and that's going to be offense. But by the time he gets a good offense, it's really just going to be too hard to deal with. He needs, like, the best ganks in the game 3 times over.
Yeah, and it's really setting behind his mid game. So when the fights come around, they're going to be extremely weak compared with CLG.Black. So CLG.Black can continue to pressure that early game advantage. Maokai abusing Nocturne here, coming up to steal the blue. He's able to take it and then back off. He has the Oracle, so he can gain them that map control. I'm still curious. I wouldn't think they're going to go for a dragon shortly, but I am wondering how much damage those seeds can provide if they just do to go for it. And they are actually going for it now. Aurelia has made her way down.
They saw that actually right now, Pearl had to go back in line to take a lot of damage underneath the turret. And let's see if those plants, do they add what they do aggro? They're doing a decent chunk of damage. She hasn't used her ultimate if they want to do it really fast, but right now it's about, oh wow, 113 damage per auto attack per plant. So just sit down 2 seeds, pop out 2 plants, that will actually burn Baron down fairly quickly.
Yeah, it's definitely, that's actually some really nice harass. I mean, that could be very effective in lane as well. That's kind of interesting. So it's a 1-to-1 scaling based on her ability power ratio for as far as the plant's damage is concerned. And they are pretty squishy, but even so, late game, that's going to be a lot of damage. You can understand how she would be able to, pressure Baron so easily with that kind of auto attack damage.
It's actually not quite 1-to-1. It's just like with the
oh, it's like half with the base.
Yeah, it's like a really high base damage. I think it's like 0.2, but the base damage is actually really high. It's about 90 base damage right now, so it's got quite a wallop. In the end, Zarya plants actually hurt a lot more than people would really count them for. I guess you kind of see a plant, you're just like, what's it going to do to me? Murder you. That's what it's going to do to you.
Oh, in the meantime, Nocturne coming in mid for Link. The fear does go off. Takashi X trying to follow up. Maokai is here as well, but the disables from Link and then flashing out of there. The twisted advance from Zuna. He's coming in. He has his ultimate as well. Takashi X trying to get that ultimate off. One more attack. Almost able to pick it up. The Karth Assault can't quite grab it. Link is able to get out of there.
20 HP on Link at the end of that exchange. Unfortunately, just so short. Takashi X with possibly the riskiest ultimate I've ever seen. And, I mean, 4Not, they need a late game, but I do not think CLG.Black is going to let that late game happen. They have Dragon control. They actually have top lane control, mid lane control. Even the bot lane is not going that hot for 4Not right now. And they don't have a team that's really that strong coming back. They use Nocturne ultimate. They use Karthus ultimate. It's 3 minutes before either of those are going to be back up.
Yeah, and Psycho Sid actually diving onto Martel. He has the Ignite, he has his ultimate, but actually Martel almost able to pick it up. Yes, they do exchange. So Psycho Sid, an even trade, but it does still deny a lot of farm from Martel. But still, I'm not sure that it was really that worthwhile considering the lane advantages that he had.
Bloodwater being a massive troll to Psycho Sid not actually using his ultimate to heal him. I think that might have saved him. One Bad Bread actually takes so much damage just from that plant, down to already 2/3 HP. I mean, Zyra's she just hurts. All of her skills doing so much damage. Maokai's actually in the bot lane now, waiting for Zyra to show up.
Yeah, and it's interesting running that actual Abyssal Scepter build. So kind of similar to Orianna in a lot of regrets. Actually, the snare onto One Bad Brad. He has plenty of damage. The ultimate as well. Brad has to flash out of there, so he's being chased down. One more Q is able to pick it up, and now they have the pressure on this bottom lane under the turret. Zuna actually coming in with the twisted advance onto Tarek, is able to pick that up. Parole able to back out of there, but still 10-2 for CLG.Black right now. 4Not not looking so hot. You know, I really enjoy a lot of what 4Not has done in the past. You know, a lot of their members, they're really awesome guys. They're really strong players, but they have kind of struggled in the tournament scene for a while. But even so, CLG.Black exerting their dominance in this game. The first NA0 that I've seen, and it's working perfectly.
And like you said, 4Not right now, they're just not doing that well. They've had their problems in the past. The thing is, North American teams have just gotten really good lately, like CLG.Black, Orbit coming out of nowhere. Even teams like Ordnance and Jupiter's Troopers, they're strong despite having almost no experience. And 4Not, like, I think they're just used to a bit of an older metagame, because they were fairly strong, I'd say, back in maybe May or April. But, like, they're in a slump now. They just need to kind of get a bit more dedication from what I hear. Like, they just cannot play often enough. And other teams, they're playing a lot of League of Legends because A, they love this game, and B, they want to get good.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the story of Orbit in particular, and a number of them have been in the scene for a while. Psycho Sid very close to diving onto Martel. He's going to have to back off, but actually Nocturne coming in the mid lane. Zira does go down after trying to take down Takashi. I'm going to actually back up for that in a second. Oh, wait, it actually looked like he picked up the kill just as I was hitting rewind, but I guess we'll see that in a second. Link just has almost enough burst, missing the snare onto Takashi X, so he only hits 1 Q, and then the passive auto attack almost taking Takashi X down, 10 HP, not quite able to do it.
And actually, that's kind of the way Zyra's designed. It's very interesting. So you kill her plants when you kill her, but she still has like her finisher move. So you want to kill her fast just so the plants don't grow. At the same time, if you do kill her quickly, she still has that awesome true damage nuke. So there's a lot of what ifs with Zyra, but I can see why she is being used to such a high degree of efficiency. And oh man, the question is, what will CLG.Black do next? They can keep laning, but as we saw, Zyra did go down. The ganks from 4Not have been successful. Like, they got one off finally.
Yeah. Well, it's.
So I was gonna say, if they keep doing this, like if they just keep relying on laning, then they might keep getting these ganks off. So they gotta watch out. They're probably gonna start roaming. Botlight tower has gone down. So now we're gonna see just movement around the map. We're gonna see Hood Stomp descend into that bot lane and just show the world his Ezreal presence.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, if they do continue pushing, Zyra's plants do have to worry about AoE clearing just like any other minions, but she would be very strong at pushing, I would assume. I mean, the plants could add some tower damage, but then also that zoning presence underneath the turret to just constantly throw off snares and, you know, if the team is defending. We'll have to see. I do think it's interesting, though, that Link is building, like, she's kind of a upfront AP champion. She's someone who's going to be right in the middle of the battle. She has the Abyssal Scepter going for that Rylai's as well, and then just has enough utility that she wants to play up close.
I believe, actually, we have ultimate coming out from Karthus. Are they going somewhere? It looks like the damage on the bot lane. They try to start this fight, but they just don't have any follow-up, so ultimate really accomplishes nothing.
Yeah, if they can't get the Taric stun in there, they don't have a lot of options. Martel actually throwing down the ultimate, misses out on Psycho Sid, but he has enough damage. He can actually try and chase him down a little bit, wheel back off. And so as a result, Psycho Sid, his cooldowns are back up. He has his ultimate. He has Ignite as well. Martel really needs to be careful right here.
He does go in. This actually might be his downfall. The stun comes out. Martel taking so much damage. Needs to deal it to Psycho Sid. Does not in the end. Goes down, unfortunately. And I mean, this Rumble, when he falls too far behind against Aurelia, just cannot do anything to her. Like, the fights aren't lasting long enough. She just has more sustain, more damage, and he's got to get out of that lane. He clearly cannot survive it unless she's diving into him underneath the turret.
Oh,
Parole.
Also, as a result, they're just not going to be able to have enough damage. You're right. Parole going down very quickly. Oh, almost able to get out of there. Zero actually chasing down Taric, hits the snare and actually chasing him up with the slow from that sapperling. Probably will be able to pick up that kill. The one more Q is able to get it. Karthus, in the meanwhile, did head up into that top lane, was able to chase down Psycho Sid with an exhaust, hitting a couple of Qs and able to pick up that kill.
There is something very ironic, by the way, of Locust being killed by Zyra. But, right now, 4Not, they need to do something. Like, they're just kind of dying all over the place. You can tell they're playing on nerves, like with the Karthus not hitting anything, with actually one bad getting caught up by Zyra again. Link is going to chase him down. He has that potential, just needs to land a root or something.
Yeah, and so he's able to easily pick up that kill. It's interesting, though. You were talking about the summoners being similar to Heimerdinger, but it seems to me that Zyra is almost using it more in an offensive manner than Heimerdinger ever did. Heimerdinger was always kind of a defensive, you want to sit around the outside of the fight, but Link is just like, I have plenty of damage in CC to kill people without an Ignite. I just want to chase people down and get this. I understand he's 7-1-2 right now, so almost any champion, you can do that when you're 7-1-2, but that offensive capability for Zyra it just seems extremely powerful.
So he actually picks up a Rylai's, which will apply to the plant. So that is something Heimerdinger does not have. His turrets do not apply Rylai's. I actually really like his Zyra build. So it's like this weird kind of, it makes sense type of deal. So the plants don't get her magic penetration, so Abyssal Scepter will really amplify their damage. Rylai's will keep her alive, and the slow will apply to the plant. So it's all kind of, based around actually using the plants. And I think that's actually really interesting because when I first saw her, the first thing I thought is, plants? Well, that seems like it'd be really hard to pull off. And it is. But someone like Link, a great player, is going to be able to actually do it. Spam his seed right before a plant falls down.
And in the meantime, Psycho Sid getting the slow into Martel. Goes to Zuna, following it up the flash, but there's the Twisted Advance to follow it up. Martel will go down very quickly. Nocturne's up here as well. Same thing with Locust, but they will actually be trapped out. Zyra coming down, does get the snare off onto him. One Bad Bread trying to get out the stun from Locust, but he doesn't really have a great option. There's the pop-up from Link, and then the Q. Actually, Psycho Sid able to finish that up.
I mean, right now, that's two people down. Two important people, actually, for 4Not. If CLG.Black felt that they needed to, they could take Baron right now, but they're in such a comfortable position. 10,000 gold lead, 22 minutes in, 2 Infinity Edges. I mean, just look across the lanes. Look how strong Zyra is.
Yeah, and they are actually going for that Baron with that Zyra damage. The little saplings or seeds or whatever going down pretty quickly, but in the meantime, Takashi X caught out between Hood Stomp and Psycho Sid. Locust and Parole are here as well, so Hood Stomp has to watch out. He doesn't want to go down, but Psycho Sid dashing onto Parole is able to pick up that kill. Can he get the dash back on Takashi X? Actually able to pick up the kill first, so they'll want to back off, but all the while, they're running the distraction. Their team is the main show. They're able to pick up the Baron.
I guess the good news is that Psycho Sid will not have the Baron buff. The bad news is everybody else will. And Hoodstop does get stunned out. Cleanse out goes after Takashi X, turns around. Can he get the kill actually? Does not die.
Yeah, Nocturne with a nice follow-up, helping him out there. But even so, it's a 12k goal advantage along with the Baron for his team. It's always nice to take out a Baron buff, but I don't know, we'll see. Part of the issue that they're going to face now, yeah, they do have good clearing capabilities, and Karthus is very strong at holding down a mid lane. So we'll see whether or not CLG.Black can push aggressively down that mid lane. Nocturne could split push a little bit, but with how far ahead they are, they really are going to have to watch out that Maokai just doesn't decide to tower dive them and throw off his ultimate, and then him and Zyra jump in for some kills.
Actually, Maokai right now having to run away after just not tanking the turret, but fighting it as just the enemy team kind of showed up. Just hung around. Actually, Takashi X goes down in the top lane. I mean, this is rough for CLG. Takashi is just dying too quickly. He does not have the HP to even get into a good position for a fight. Zyra will just keep him out. So clearly, it actually might be a counter where if Karthus wants to go in, he will just be out of position. He cannot actually engage against the root or against the knock-up.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing, and that, I mean, that might just counter out all of Karthus's AoE clearing abilities. The fact that Karthus can usually stall at a tower, the fact that he has to just be scared of this pressure from Zyra. Yeah, so we'll have to see how that's going to kind of progress later on. But with Aurelia so fed, with Zyra so fed, they have their frontline tank, they have the burst damage, and right now, 4Not, they just don't have the damage to counter it. They don't have the damage to take down Aurelia in those fights. Bloodwater, he has that Oracles. He can run around clear. They're going to be able to actually pick up this red. So we'll see if they decide to push down. I'm curious whether or not Aurelia might just decide to split push just because of how strong she is, and just be able to take control of a lane while the rest of them set up under another lane. So we'll have to see.
They still have Baron buff for a good, let's see, a minute and a half. They're going to start taking down these turrets. They just have the opportunity. They can dive underneath this turret. Zuna looks like he's just amped for it. And just chasing 4Not. He flashes forward, actually gets a run, obliterates Locust.
Yeah, and actually Ezreal has plenty of damage as well. The quick burst, Parole almost going down, is able to get out of there, but both Taric and Rumble go down, and CLG.Black basically unscathed there. And that's just how much burst and range Zyra has had at this point. The Maokai twisted advance onto one bad Brad. He throws off the fear. Hood Stomp trying to chase him down with that red buff. Can't quite get it into him, but Psycho Sid chasing down Karthus is able to back out of there, so they will be able to pick up this inhibitor. They will be able to continue pressuring. Bloodwater tanking for a second. And, then they can go back, buy some items, and continue their push.
So the way that fight went down, to me it almost seems like Zyra's Morgana, but better. Which is just a terrifying concept. The way the root lands, it's a Morgana root, but AoE. Not quite as effective number-wise, but like we saw how much damage it did in the end when supplemented with the plants and supplemented with just a little bit more of her abilities. So Zyra really showing her strength here, and I've seen her, in a less farmed out situation. She's still good. And actually, Takashi had been blown up. It's not the full engage. Will he survive this? Does go down, but the fight's done. This is what 4Not needs. They need to win this engagement. Pearl gets so low. Locust will go down, it seems. One bad red is picked off. Locust goes down. Rumble goes down. Pearl has died too. And Ace, this will be good game for CLG.Black.
Yeah, they're going to be able to push in very easily, get this Nexus, and Zyra definitely working out for their team. I'll be honest, I would kind of expect to see a Zyra ban coming in this next game. It's a new champion. You're not quite sure how to deal with it. The pressure that Link was able to put on was just phenomenal. And a lot of it has to do with the Maokai as well. And then, Maokai's pressure in the top lane and mid lane helped them win those lanes. Psycho Sid was able to control it. Zuna almost going down. But, I don't know, we'll have to see. They're actually not going to be able to finish here.
No, they're alive.
That's kind of surprising. I blame Link. Link decided to go back. He wanted to finish his item build. He was like, game's over. I need to finish my build so that when people check out my match history, I look really good.
Now, I will say one thing really quickly.
As Takashi's dying?
Yeah. I was going to say Takashi X could have actually ulted Zuna, but the reason he didn't was because Bloodwater had his ultimate up. As you can see, though, it did not really matter.
Yeah, so we'll see. They can continue this push in. They are going to have to wait a second for Zuna. So in the meantime, Ezreal, he's going to be fine pushing down the top lane. But first thoughts on Zyra, really good. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Studio?
Really good.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
The more I see her played well, the more impressed I am. Like, the first time I saw it, it's like, but people didn't know what they were doing. It's like, they throw plants down, they don't actually use them. But just the root and the follow-up that comes with that 1.75 AoE root is massive. It all just synergizes perfectly. People are just getting obliterated by her combination.
Yeah, she actually kind of reminds me of Orianna. And Orianna, they are very different champions. Orianna is very strong right now, and I really like the place that she's in. But Zyra can easily AoE clear the waves at very early levels. So that potential allows you to control the lane very easily, allows you to farm. Zuna actually diving into the middle of the team, almost going down there, but he's just tanky enough. They don't have enough damage, even 4v1, to take him down. And Link following it up with the burst. They're able to pick up 2 kills. Then Martel is being forced out as well. Karthus is actually kind of zoned out, but they will be able to take this.
Psycho Sid juking at the tower.
Yeah. The big thing that I think is interesting, is he actually going to go for this? He's maybe going to get the kill. Yep, one more attack. Takashi X goes down. So I think it's interesting. Zyra can control the lane very well by just AoE clearing, so you can throw people into the tower easily if you want to. You can farm very safely with your range and with your minions as well, your little plants. Then you also have great kiting capabilities, and that's one thing that Orianna has. The fact that you can, kind of poke people down and then get out of there easily with Orianna's W. In this case, with Zyra's E, you throw off an E with some, seeds in the way, and you get the slow as well, so you can just constantly kite people for days. And then having that quick AoE burst to just turn back in is definitely a really exciting prospect.
Something interesting, actually, I heard from members of Curse